Please welcome the Tower Defense Systems team, BelowNatural, OutOfBears, and StarWars to the stage.
Hi, and first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for coming to our session on finding success with your live operations strategy. I'm Tim, the CEO and founder of Paradox Games. Many of you may already know me as the username BelowNatural on Roblox, and today I'm joined with two of my developers, Jack and Tyler.
Hey, I'm Jack Fox, the principal gameplay engineer for Paradox Games, and I've been developing since 2011.
And I'm Tyler Gnass. I am the principal content engineer, and I've been on the platform since 2007.
Together, we make up the core engineering team behind this popular strategy experience, Tower Defense Simulator. Let's jump straight into it. So, I created Tower Defense Simulator in 2019, originally as a school project, and it quickly grew into something huge, beyond my expectations. Throughout the 5 years, we've accumulated statistics such as 3.4 billion visits, an average CCU between 12 to 15,000, sometimes much more, and continuous growth in user acquisition and revenue. So accomplishing such stability and healthy growth over a long period of time is no easy feat. So the question becomes, how was Tower Defense Simulator able to maintain growth and community engagement over a span of over 5 years? The answer to that is live operations. So based on the lessons that we've learned with working with live operations in the last 5 years, we're going to explore how live ops can drive long-term success through the following topics. The fundamentals of live ops, what is live operations, the live ops planning process, and finally, delivering quality updates. Let's answer the question, why live ops? Why should we care about it? Simply to put it, live ops is the key to keeping your experience alive and thriving. There are many benefits that come with choosing live ops, such as data-driven insights, community building, player reactivation, engagement, and much more. These reasons are some of the plethora of reasons why you should be choosing live ops for your long-term strategy and growth. But in order to understand what live ops is, let's take a step back to really go over the fundamentals of live ops and why it exists in the first place. Historically, games could have been shipped in two different product models. Games as a product and games as a service. Games as a product is our traditional model. Think video game cartridge or DVD. This model has an emphasis on creating a polished and finite experience that your users can enjoy from start to finish. But one flaw with this model is that there's limited player interaction and feedback after its initial release. That's where games as a service, our modern model, comes in. Surprisingly, a lot of developers on Roblox already use this model. This model has an emphasis on creating and continuously expanded and updated experience over time with a focus on some analytics and metrics such as user acquisition, player retention, and just overall long-term value. Some examples we can think of this would be MMOs, free-to-play games, or mobile games. So the question is, where does live ops fit into the big picture? Well, I'm here to tell you that live ops is an extension of games as a service. It's often misunderstood as simply just adding new content or assets to a game, but it's much more than that. Live operations, it's a best set of practices and processes that developers can use to manage, maintain, and evolve a game over a long period of time with a deep focus of your players' understanding through analytics and constant iteration and care. An easy way to visualize this process would be to view it from feedback. We start at feedback, we get into designing your features, then we get into developing them, and then finally we launch and go right back into feedback, and the cycle continues. Now that we've gone over a pretty high-level overview of what live ops is, let's move on to the more practical side, which is setting up an effective live ops strategy. The key component to every single live ops strategy is going to be feedback loops. Feedback loops aren't just an option, they're the lifeblood of live ops. These are essential for gathering real-time insights and information from your community, which help you guide your updates, improvements, and evolution. There are many forms that feedback loops can come in. From simple surveys to complex platforms, you can use things such as Discord, Reddit, YouTube, or Guilded to help and foster these communities. But ultimately, it's up to your team to choose what best suits your community. But after that, don't just set up those channels. You want to make sure that you're actively engaging with them. Monitor those chat forums, those videos, watch videos, look at those reviews, forums, etc. Look around for patterns, both positive and negative, and identify common pain points and suggestions to really see where your players and your community is interested in. With all of that feedback, LiveOps can get chaotic really quickly and messy fast. So it's important that your team is utilizing project management boards to help you keep organized. Not only do these help you prioritize and track player feedback, but these project management boards help your team and ensures that you're addressing the most important issues that your team and your community wants to see addressed. Examples that you could use for these would be tools such as Asana, Monday, Trello, or Jira. Now I'm going to hand it off to Jack to go over how you can reinforce these feedback loops with KPIs and analytics.
Thanks, Tim. Now that we're organized and aligned with our community, it's time to elevate our feedback loops beyond just anecdotes. Let's take them to the next level with KPIs and analytics. While community feedback is crucial, it's just one piece of the puzzle. To really understand the health of your game, its economy, balance, and player engagement, we need hard data. Key performance indicators, or KPIs, are like the vital signs of your game, and they give us deeper insights into how players are spending their time and money, and which features are succeeding or failing, and where our economy might need adjustments. Analytics help us make informed decisions. For example, should we adjust prices? Should we tweak item drop rates? Maybe players are beating a hardest gamer too easily, so it's time to introduce a new challenge. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. Choose the right analytics tools to best fit your game's needs and budget. One cost-effective option developers can leverage is Roblox's native analytics events platform. It's free to use and includes most of the basic KPIs developers need to start tracking success. Roblox handles a lot of the heavy lifting, tracking key areas like retention, engagement, acquisition, and revenue. For developers looking for deeper insights into their game's economy and user experience, Roblox offers new economy and funnel events. Native economy events help you track top sinks, where users spend resources like coins or XP, and the average wallet balance, showing how much of that resource the user is holding. Native funnel events allow you to track onboarding, identifying where users drop off, and pinpoint progression where they stop advancing. In TDS, we utilize funnels to track our tutorials' effectiveness. Funnels let us see each step a user takes to visualize the overall conversion rate. Let's walk through an example. A new user joins TDS for the first time, and we track their journey starting from the tutorial. First, they start the tutorial and enter the game, and at this point, we see 5% of users drop off. This is normal. Often it can be simply users leaving, or teleports failing, or any other potential issue that may occur. Next up, players learn the basics of TDS. For example, selecting and placing towers, but then, once we reach the demo man selected step, we notice something concerning. 24% of players drop off by this point. Why might this be happening? Are players getting bored? Have they already grasped the basics and moved on? Or maybe they didn't fully understand some of the mechanics and decided to leave. But let's continue. Users then learn the next steps of playing a tower defense game. For example, they learn how to upgrade, they learn how to sell, and fight until they reach the tutorial boss. After the boss is defeated, 72% of players successfully complete the tutorial. This is a basic example of using KPIs to refine your game's first user experience. By optimizing these steps, we can potentially retain more new users. Now let's move on to a more basic example of using third-party analytics. If you're looking to take your analytics to the next level, consider setting up third-party analytics solutions. While these services can be costly and require more time to implement, they offer us deeper insights. In our game, we set up a service called Game Analytics, and we visualize the data from this service in a tool called Grafana. This allows us to track key metrics as shown above. Those metrics are overall wins and losses, losses by waves, and the win-loss ratio. We use this data to help rebalance waves that may be too difficult or too easy for players. It gives us a clear visualization of our game's current balance. For example, we can monitor the win-loss ratio to determine how often players are completing waves. If this ratio is too low, it could indicate that a game mode is too difficult. If this ratio is too high, it might be too easy. We use these insights to balance our game by keeping the win-loss ratio lower for harder modes like hardcore and higher, around 3 to 4, for easier game modes. If something feels off, we can review the losses by waves and adjust the difficulty accordingly. This is a basic implementation of our third-party KPIs. Now let's move into a more exciting and advanced example, heat maps. One of our more interesting experiments with game analytics has been using heat maps, a more advanced implementation of KPIs. We track in-game events of how players interact with their environment, we check in-game events to generate heat maps showing where players place towers on our maps. This provides direct visualization of how players interact with their environments, offering significant insights. These visualizations help us understand and balance around strategies players are using. For instance, are players always placing towers in the same spot? If so, we may want to encourage a more strategic placement of towers by changing the environment. By analyzing these heat maps, we can make data-driven decisions that improve the game's overall balance and overall player experience. We can even take this a step further by tracking in the lobby where players are crowding around and optimizing the environment there. But let's hand it back to Tim to talk more about LiveOps.
Thanks, Jack. I really liked that visualization of heat maps. Really love those. If you're interested in more analytics and deeper discussion, there's another panel next to us after this at 2:15. But let's get back into things. So now with a load of KPIs and data, we're ready to start designing our updates. Often, designing updates can feel straightforward, and most of the times, it is. The purpose of incorporating LiveOps into your update strategy is to provide a much deeper level of depth, reinforcing your updates with deeper insights directly from your users. To help visualize this and help you understand what this process looks like, we're going to do a walkthrough of our recent tutorial update that we designed and launched. The first step number 1 to LiveOps feature design, is to utilize your feedback loops and KPIs to identify areas of improvement. In our case, we were missing a tutorial for almost 4 years. Ever play a game where you don't know what to do? So we know our team took notice to the chat servers that we had of new users complaining about it being hard to get started in Tower Defense Simulator. A lot of these new users ended up having to go to other community members and look up YouTube videos to figure out how to play the game to begin with. Simultaneously, our development team noticed that our new user first-time retention was starting to get really low. Once you've been able to identify those issues, it's crucial for you to prioritize them. You want to start with prioritizing critical bugs that significantly impact your game's health. These areas could be areas such as game revenue. They could be balance issues that affect your game's progression or economy, or they can even be issues that prevent the player from playing in the first place, just like the guy above us. For our team, when it came to first-time user retention, we decided to mark that and prioritize it as high, as it really held back TDS from growing its growing audience and paying user conversion. Cool. Now we have everything prioritized and aligned, so it's time to start establishing objectives. What does success look like for your feature or issue? What KPIs do you want to see improve? For us, we wanted to see new user first session retention improve, day 7 stickiness, and our paying user conversion. So now that we have our goals aligned and prioritized, it's time to start designing your updates. Typically, these updates can fall into the following 3 categories, plus one that I'll talk about in the next slide. You have content updates. These are primarily focused at the addition of new in-game elements. These could be maps, items, characters. We're familiar with these. But the big thing about these content updates is that they rely on existing systems and features. Next, a feature update. This type of update introduces a whole new gameplay mechanic or system that fundamentally changes how your users interact with your experience. These updates bring a huge change to the core loop of your experience. We can think new game modes or a new trading system or crafting system. Finally, we have patch updates. These are updates that usually and typically directly address player feedback. They tackle bugs, glitches, bounce issues, and often are KPI driven. In our case with Tower Defense Simulator, we chose to tackle our first-time user retention in 2 separate updates. The first one was a feature update, and the second, a content update. Our feature update remade our tutorial, refining it and giving users a helping hand through the lobby and game. This also showed them what was possible in the game by giving them advanced late game towers. At the same time, after completing the tutorial, we prompted users with a huge discount on a starter pack bundle. This helped us with our paying user conversion immediately. Next, after our feature update, we decided let's do a content update. Let's add a new beginner tower called the Trapper. That way, the new players who have just joined our game from the new tutorial have something new and fresh to look forward to. Now, the next type of update I want to go over is seasonal and live events. While they can be extremely heavy in production and cost a lot of resources to make, these type of updates can give you a huge temporary boost in retention and relevancy. They can also generate a ton of hype for your community, reactivate those old users that haven't been to your game in over a year, create memorable experiences for your community to bond over, and create insane revenue opportunities for your team. Sometimes they can go beyond the game. They can lead to community initiatives such as Discord tournaments or community art contests. There's a ton you can do with these. Let me run you down on a unique example from Tower Defense Simulator, our Lunar Overture live event, which was from Halloween 2023. In this case, we built a story-focused event that was driven by our community's desire to see the 2020 event boss, the Umbra, make a return. Our team decided to tackle this event in 4 separate live event missions, each unlocking 42 hours after each other, and each one of these explored the backstory of the Umbra character. With every single mission, we provided new unlockable characters that were available for a limited time, and on top of that, we provided limited time unique UGC rewards awarded to the first 1,000 players who beat each event. As an outcome, not only did we see an explosion of community engagement, art, videos, tweets, etc., but we saw some amazing stats. We hit an all-time record of 160,000 peak CCU. We saw an increase of 75.5% in our average DAU. We saw an 84.2% increase in our returning users, and the biggest part, a 357.1% in our average daily revenue. Our team took away from this event that communities love story-based live events with limited time items, and you want to make sure that you're really utilizing these live counters as they get your community hyped. But now that we have our update type figured out, it's time to build a roadmap. Roadmaps in the LiveOps process are crucial. They outline timelines and goals, they keep your team aligned with overall priorities, and they keep the development process focused on delivering quality content that your community wants to see. I like to keep 4 rules when designing our roadmap. The first one is to embrace iteration. You want to make sure that your team is ready to adjust and edit your timeline according to real-time player feedback and data. In a LiveOps setting, it's important to remember that flexibility is key. It's about evolving, not just reaching a final destination. The next rule, plan smart. Don't plan your entire roadmap in one sitting for the whole year. You want to make sure that you're planning in scopes of maybe quarters to 6 months. Ultimately, it's up to your team's capabilities. But this not only helps you avoid burnout and over-planning, but it also allows your team to accommodate for unexpected changes. As I said earlier, flexibility is key in a LiveOps setting. The third rule that I like to keep when designing my roadmaps is that you want to strategize your update releases. As I mentioned, content, feature, and patches, you want to make sure that you're spacing those updates away from each other separately. This not only helps you maximize your team's output, encouraging users to return to your experience, but it also creates a safer environment for you to launch minor features because they have a smaller reliance and risk on larger features. The last rule I like to keep in mind, keep your players happy. Make space for those patches and quality of life updates. Not only does this enhance the success for your big updates, but it sets the stage for your entire team as a whole and builds loyalty. There's one thing I do want to stress to all of you on this, is that it's okay to say no. While LiveOps does thrive on user feedback, it's crucial for developers to maintain their original vision. A successful LiveOps strategy hinges on finding the right balance between embracing player feedback and staying true to the experience's core vision. Developer vision allows for creative risk and long-term growth that player feedback alone might not be able to inspire. There's many reasons why you may want to choose to say no to the community or postpone something, such as technical constraints, resource allocation, balancing concerns, or even long-term vision conflict. Ultimately, the developer's vision is what keeps games evolving, unique, and innovative. If developers were to cater solely to player feedback, it would only result in a flood of similar formulaic experiences. Your vision acts as a safeguard against this, ensuring that your game stands out in a competitive market. Now, I'm going to hand it over to Tyler, who's going to run you down on how you can deliver updates successfully.
Thank you, Tim. So after features are planned and developed, how can we ensure that we deliver updates successfully? Testing. Now, I know what you're thinking, testing, that's obvious, right? And you're right. It is obvious, but you'll be surprised how many people skipped it and only regret it later. Testing doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. Even small-scale testing with colleagues or friends can help uncover any crucial bugs or any balance issues. And for larger updates, think about community betas or paid testing groups. The bottom line is, testing saves you headache down the road. It gives you the confidence of knowing your experience is polished and ready for the world to see. For studios with multiple team members, testing can get messy, especially when everyone's working on something different. Here's how staging environments help us keep things organized at TDS. Each developer have their own testing environment to work in. They can thoroughly test their own feature and work with QA to catch any issues early on. This means if one issue has problems, we can easily postpone it without impacting the rest of the update. Once all the features are ready, we merge them together into a release branch and deploy it to our test server, which is a replica of the live game environment. This will allow any final rounds of testing before launch. Now let's switch gears to marketing. You want to post teasers or announcements on social media to generate excitement for upcoming updates. Keep teasers small and focused. Think of renders of new enemies or a short video hinting of a new character. Revealing too much will spoil the surprise. Time your social media posts strategically, aiming about 3 to 7 days before launch. This will help keep updates fresh in users' minds. And you want to keep your community engaged and involved by being transparent about update progress. Regular development updates, such as sneak peeks or any behind-the-scenes content, will not only build hype, but also fosters loyalty and appreciation. The goal is to create a cycle of excitement engagement, and loyalty. And by strategically timing your announcements and maintaining transparency, you can ensure that your community will remain excited and invested. Now, after you launch an update, what now? Well, you want to hold what's called a retrospective, and this will help identify what went well, what went wrong, any team blockers, and potential solutions. This will allow your team to reflect any issues that happened before, during, or after the development process. And lastly, don't forget to monitor your KPI goals that you set for your feature. This will help your team understand if your features are heading in the right direction and making an impact in community feedback. And I'll hand the recap back to Tim.
Thanks, Tyler. Now that we've gone over retrospectives, we've come full circle with the LiveOps cycle. So let's recap. LiveOps, what is LiveOps? LiveOps is a strategy that developers can use to manage and evolve an experience after its initial release. The strategy is focused on building updates around constant care, iteration, analytics, and a deep understanding for your community's needs and desires. Make sure when you set up your servers, you're not just viewing them. Make sure you're engaging with them. You want to engage with them you want to engage with those feedback loops so that you can identify different KPIs or issues of your games that your community may be struggling with. When it comes to building your roadmap for LiveOps strategy, make sure you follow the rules that I explained earlier. So first, identify those issues with KPIs and your feedback loops. Next, prioritize those issues. That's crucial. That'll help you with decision making. Then, establish objectives. What does success look like for your feature? What do you want to see improve with your experience? And the most important thing that I mentioned, balance your vision with player feedback. You want to make sure that you're constantly innovating. Next, although it's obvious, QA test those updates. No one wants to see an unpolished or broken product. And finally, the most important part that you should be doing at the end of every single cycle is to have a retrospective. These retrospectives help your team learn from update success, difficulties, etc., and help you improve the next time around. I'm excited to see how you all implement LiveOps into your strategy. This is a very deep topic, and hopefully this session has helped you understand a surface level of what LiveOps is and how you might be using it already or how you can implement it into your strategies. If you have any questions, please free to catch me, Tyler, or Jack after the session or anywhere around RDC. If you want, you can even email us at rdc@paradoxon.gg. LiveOps is an amazing tool. It's very powerful, and I can't wait to see how you all utilize it for your experiences. Thank you. Now, we have about 6 minutes remaining, 6 minutes and 38 seconds exactly. So let's have some time for Q&A for anyone that wants to have or has a question about live operations. We'll try to answer to the best of our ability. There's 2 microphones on each side of the room, so feel free to just walk up and ask us questions. If you want to ask questions about content, Tyler's the guy to go to. Any analytics, Jack and me, I kind of do LiveOps as a whole, so.
All right, I'll let you decide who can answer, but my question is, do you incorporate live ops, I don't know what the word for it is, but where you basically have it set on a timer so that the game changes without you having to publish an update?
Yes, so Jack can actually tell you about
of me and Tyler. But yes. In the past, we have utilized a lot of different timers for our events. For example, in the Halloween event, we had a timer which was a huge clock facing the users, and we had statues where players could teleport into the game that was running that event. Once the timer hit 0, it'd run a little animation, and the clock would go away. We would see tons of players either crowding the statues or the clock with the time itself. And when this would go away, they would all jump into game and get right into the content. We're split between 2 different games, so it makes it easier for us to publish to the game without having to shut down servers.
So you'll release the update locked behind a timer so that you don't have to like shut down servers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. So I saw that in your roadmap examples, you had the tutorial update like as the 4 update. It was like after other updates. I'm wondering like why are you releasing a tutorial like after the game is out? Is that like not a priority at all?
That's a great question. A lot of games on Roblox initially release as an iteration or as a small project, and they quickly scale and grow. So most developers don't have the time to think of an update. In our case, because we employed LiveOps so well, our community was able to self-sustain each other and teach each other how to play. You'd have lobbies of new players joining and high-level players joining them to teach them how to get started with the game. So that carried us for about 4 years. But there's obviously more that we could have done for it. We used a lot of analytics to really figure out the timing of when we wanted to do it. And we timed that tutorial update in preparation of one of our largest updates for that season, because we wanted to make sure that new users were, before we put out all this effort into a huge update, that we can at least teach new users and expand our reach as much as possible. This is why I said that these type of updates can help set the stage for much larger updates down the road.
Thank you.
No problem.
What's up?
So,
Earlier on in the presentation, you showed the heat maps and the player retention and used that to determine like your level's layout and like what players are doing for optimal strategies. When you make changes based on that data, how long do you like let it cook in there before you decide it's successful if it's not successful? And like, do you just, once you do that, do you reset your analytics after you push that update, or like, do you try to keep it and then compare it for later? What's your strategy on that?
No, me.
any
Do the analytics.
Fine. So our analytics are constantly rolling. Like we don't reset the data. We more so we refer back to points in time of like the analytics. Like we look at like this one chunk in time and so like, hey, well, for example, we look at we have groups by difficulty of certain maps. We can look at why is this one map being used more in this one difficulty? What aspects from that map can we take and apply to this new thing that we're going to release?
we're running a little short on time, but I'll try to make this fast. One amazing use case that we have for this is actually our upcoming PvP game mode. We use these heat maps to sort of see how players are strategically placing towers to battle each other. And we initially did a rollout of a public beta with, I believe, like 8 different test maps to see which paths players like the most. Based off the data that where people are placing towers, we can tell, hey, like which maps do people enjoy the most? Which ones have the most strategic advantage? And which ones get the players thinking the most often? Yeah. We're using that data to help shape the new and official set of maps that we're going to release with PvP on day 0 of its full launch. So I hope that answers that question.
Dubs, thank you.
Awesome.
Hi Tim. I have a very important question. English or Spanish?
Thanks.
All
right.
Hello.
Hey.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
My question is as the TDS is a successful and a long-term game, and you have held lots of events.
Yes.
And my question is, when I doing an event, maybe the CCU and the monetization will go up, and when the event is done or is closed, and all the statics will go down. So sometimes it's really hard for us to just close the event or delete the updates or the contents.
Yes.
I just want to know what you will do with it.
So this is actually a feature that we designed for our events moving forward. As I said earlier, live events and seasonal events are a powerful tool, but they're temporary, right? They provide temporary boosts. So the real big question is, how do we maximize that temporary boost as long as possible? So make the most out of it. what we did in our example was, as I said, we separated the live event. It was a very big update, but instead of releasing it all at once, we locked each mission with a live timer 42 hours after each other. Alongside, we also released a pretty lengthy battle pass that would take users about a whole month to complete, maximizing the amount of time that users spend on our game to earn those limited edition and limited items. So I hope that answers that.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, and that's it. That's a wrap.
Thank you, guys.